Okay, we will get started in just a moment, guys. There's a couple of people still trickling in here. You should be seeing my screen. It's on the all four indexes. Okay, we're going to start in just a second. Grabbing a quick trader's lunch, high protein mac and cheese from Huel out of a cup. Fast, relatively healthy. Okay, now my brain has fuel, kinda. All right, so as we discussed yesterday, well, welcome. If you weren't here yesterday, a couple of people weren't. If you missed the session, I hope you saw the recording. I'm not going to repeat anything we did yesterday, but I will start by asking if there's any questions. If you do have any questions from yesterday, please stick them in the chat. Otherwise, what I will do, or while you're doing that, I will do what you should get in the habit of doing. So remember, everything in your trading business should be very process oriented. You should follow a process. So no matter what time of the day it is, when I come to the computer to potentially trade, I do what I'm about to do. Stop, look, listen, smell is what I call it. I look at the context. So here's what happened today so far. Since we reopened at 5 p.m. Central yesterday, we had kind of a two-way open. I traded that live if you were there. Leaning toward the high end, the 15-minute break was to the upside. And then we kind of did what we always do. We built a really nice range. ES is right on the range. Right now, we're right on the VWAP. So perfectly in value, right in the middle. NQ isn't far. It's the one on the far left. Then ES is the next one over. And then YM's a little higher up. It's at the dashed line, which is SD1 on the Globex VWAP. And again, not really significant, but it's toward the upside instead of the downside, as is RTY. So if you summarize that, you can see over here what is going on. RTY is up about 1% and change, which is, over 1% is directional, but it's not significant. Over 2%, 3%, that's a decent move in the equity indexes and the futures of them. So what else do we have? The rest of them are well correlated around flat, with NQ the weakest. So let's see if there's any story to that. Nvidia's down a tiny bit. The rest of tech looks like it's okay. Amazon's up a little bit. So kind of a mixed market. I call this a rainbow tape because it's both colors, all colors of the rainbow, or Christmas is the other way to look at it. It's red and green. So not much to see there. The one other thing that you might want to take a look at is what's going on with internals. In other words, how strong are the equities? Well, they opened weak. You can see the tick was weak and the advanced decline was weak, and then improved up to mediocre. Same thing in NQ, not quite as mediocre, not quite as good toward mediocre. So basically, there's no story there either. And so that pretty much tells us nothing is really leading, and the market has more or less found value, and there's not a lot going on. So if you recall from yesterday, that's one of the setups that I look for is, are we range bound and on value? And we are in ES. So this is, and in NQ, actually in all three of these, toward the top in RTY and YM. So what does that allow for us to do? Well, it creates a good opportunity to do some more size. Remember, I told you yesterday, ES is a great instrument to scalp with size when it's relatively range bound. So if you, and the way, again, we're talking about setups, that scalping with size in ES is a setup I like to do. First of all, you need a day that it makes sense to do that. Are we near the middle? And we are. Okay. We went both ways and now we're near the middle. So that's a good potential spot to start thinking this way. What's the overall range? Well, for ES, it's 42 points. That's pretty small. So a small range and a small range day should be scalpable. So for this, we're going to play in the minis instead of the micros. Yesterday, we were playing in micros. Remember, I told you yesterday we're going to go back and forth. I called the class How to Profit with 10 Micros because you can do it with that small an amount. But today, we're going to play a little bigger. We're going to play with two minis at a time in each of the contracts. And so let's look for a trade. And then we'll continue and I'll talk more about the stuff we talked about yesterday. We're right on the 15 quarter number. The VWAP is 16. There's been decent buying down here near the low. You can see, let me clear the traded volume. We'll just leave the delta up. So you can see there's the VWAP, the blue line. There's liquidity right above it in the 17s. Liquidity is down in the 11s on this high volume node. Remember, that's the stuff we watch. Referred to the document in the pit that I pointed out yesterday. Once again, it's in this stream process, elements of docs discretion right here. This is the document we are talking about. I will put a link to that in the chat. So we just hit liquidity and we're in a tight range. So that's what I'm watching right here. And we're right on a quarter number at 15. So I really don't want to play here because liquidity is up at 17 and down at 12 and a half. So it's exactly where you'd expect it to be in the middle. But the next thing you want to watch. So this is the second part of the setup of trading on a quiet day, a tight range at the close and a tight range overall for the day, looking for setups in ES and trading it with some size. That's what we're going to do. So let's watch right here, see how it handles a push up. Maybe we can fade it a little bit. The trouble with trying right in here into this liquidity, there's the 15-minute high. The problem with that 15-minute low is the edge of the range, the session range. Is the problem with that there is they could go higher easily. You know, the top of value is all the way up here. The value area is what's shaded. So I'm not in a hurry to short this, but I like the idea of getting long at the other end, like down here at 14. That looks like a decent idea. See how the liquidity moved up as the price moved up? You know, they're just staying a certain distance away from the inside bid and ask, and that doesn't really mean anything. It's just showing how well defined the range is. So a little rotation back might be tradable. So what I'm about to talk about is a phenomenon we talked about yesterday. It's something you see in ES specifically, which is these little 3 and 4 tick rotations. We just got one. So let's see, perfect. I got filled right there. See how it just, for no apparent reason, went down by 6 ticks. It was past the bottom of the hour. Who knows why? But let's see if we can maybe catch a 2-point ride back toward value. And again, maybe we'll scale this a little bit at the quarter number, which is really where I'd rather play, or down where the liquidity is on that high volume node. See, the liquidity is right here. So I'm long 2 micros at 14. If I can add to it a little bit right here above 12 and a half or right around 12 and a half, I'll do that. It traded there. I did not fill at 13. 9 contracts traded. I'm 32 in line. Now I got filled. Okay, so now we've got a 4 lot. This is getting interesting. As I said, I might get a little more on this bump of volume right here. So I'll leave that order there, but I'm going to switch my, shoot, almost filled there at 12. I scooted it up a tick to see if I could grab it. Darn, they traded right to me and I didn't fill. Let's see if we can get it this time on that spot right there. Come on, you can do it. Okay, now we have a nice little 6 lot. Okay, so let's switch to 1 lots for the exits and let's try to take the first couple off pretty fast because this is a pretty aggressive trade. Again, I'm showing you scale today. So I'm going to do scale where it's appropriate. And this is a situation where it is. Small range day, tight range. We're near the one end of the range or the other. And liquidity is agreeing with the short-term range as the LRCs are calculating it, which you can see right here. So we're smack dab in the middle now. This trade kind of goes wrong if we go much below this 8 area right here. that recent low, and anywhere back into the range, I ought to be able to take some profits. Range goes all the way above 16. So if I can get the first half of it off before that, that gives me a little bit more to work with. So let's kill that order and see if we can take half of this off profitably right around here, and then we'll still have three more. And one of the things people always notice, you don't use stops. No, I don't. I use stops in my cash account, and in Rhythmic Trader Pro, there's a daily loss limit. So if my platform crashes or whatever, but a stop is a way of kind of asking the market to come get you out of a trade. That doesn't mean I won't exit a trade. I will, but I have my stops as clear mental ideas of where I'm wrong. I won't like put a fixed stop on a price, other than when I'm in a profitable trade, I will protect the profit with a stop. You've seen me do that already yesterday and this morning. But here we go. We're about to get some of this off here. All we got to do is trade back up into this range a little bit more. Here, let's make the range a little bigger. You can see I'm a little offsides on this one. I use that term offsides when I don't have a perfect entry, but I like the idea. It's still holding that high volume node. So I could have scaled a little more aggressively. But again, we're in micros today, or minis today. So this is already pretty aggressive with a 6 lot. Okay, one came off profitably. Let's see if we can get the other two off. Then we'll be out of half of it. And that'll be perfect. Again, right around here. I'm doing that because that's in the low volume node, and those tend to get filled in. So that's a good spot to take part of it off. And then if it goes back up toward value, we'll be in good shape. Remember, one of the setups is a short squeeze, and they're very common on days. They're very common at the close, particularly on days when we're down and the cumulative delta is negative. Now, that's not the case today, but that doesn't mean they're not common today either. Closes, they're common. So I tend to prefer to play long more than short at the close. When the rest of the day, I tend to be more of a short trader. It's just something I've developed over the years for the reason I just explained. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. I will get to them. I made a couple of you co-hosts so you could let people in if they're in the waiting room. Please do so if I don't see them. I usually look over there every few minutes, but sometimes I forget to. Okay, so I'm trying to get two more of my 6 off here. I'm going to try to get 3 more of my 6 off because it's taken a little too long on this push down, and we're not quite trading as aggressively on the bid as I'd like to see. So there's buyers here, but I really want to see a short squeeze start. All right, now we might be getting it. Let's watch remember yesterday I said the way to see a short squeeze coming is the bid starts getting stacked really aggressively, and that's not happening right now. In fact, it went the other way. So again, that's the spot that I'm watching, is where I may or may not be wrong here, is right on this high volume node. So far it's still holding. I would scale there. If it pushes down and gets bought again, I would add another 1 or 2 there. Again, this is an example of an aggressive trade. We're using minis. We're trading more aggressively. There's one right there. Okay, let's take that. So now I've got 7. Remember, I took one off a minute ago, so I'm kind of trading around a core idea here. And you see how I'm managing the stack of contracts I'm in, which is an 8 lot now. That's pretty decent size. Remember, it's $50 a contract a point, so you can do the math yourself. If it pushes down really hard, I'm way off sides and I have to reconsider this idea. But again, as long as this high volume node holds, I'm okay. And so I'm risking about $1,500 right now to the bottom of that high volume node. And so far, we're holding that area. So I'm not uncomfortable scaling it as long as this idea works. I never try to get an exact price entry. It's about, is this a good idea? And right here, so far it is. And again, I'm trading around a core position long because the range has been tight and because we're in a tight range day. I wouldn't do this on a day like yesterday with a bigger range. And I wouldn't do it on a day when the close is so far a big range, which it isn't. It's a tight range. So, and what's a tight range? NES for the day, less than 50 points or so, and we're at 42. And for the short term, it shouldn't be more than about 10, and it's about 6. So here we go. We're taking profits again. So now we've got a decent little long, and it's profitable right here. So I'm going to try to take a little more of this off if I can. That'll still leave me a decent sized position. There we go. Perfect. Okay, let's get one more off here. Boom. Now I can protect the last three, and maybe we'll get a little runner here back up to the value to the VWAP. Otherwise, we'll put 200 bucks on the bank here. So that's fine, or 150, depending on where I get taken out here. So, okay, now it's 125. My last contract is protected, scooted up a bit. So we will get taken out if it goes back down at all. And so this way, I basically engineered a profit out of very little price action. So this is the setup yesterday I described as scalping ES with size when it's in a tight range. We have all of those factors, so that's what I'm doing. I'm going to try to keep this last contract on, but I don't want to give this 150 bucks back. So, and it's a little volatile here, but we could get a pop up. We're likely to get a pop up, but there we go. It filled. So I like that idea, but I'll reassert that idea again if it pushes back down, maybe here to 10 now. Notice how before I was playing that idea between 12 and 15, and now I'm playing it between 10 and 12. It's the same idea. The price is always secondary to the price action. This is an important point. Yeah, I figured you guys would ask about stops. I see that comment. Sometimes I'll use a bracket and I'll put a stop way outside of the trade, but there's really no reason to do that in the thicker instruments. The stop is built, I've got it in our Trader Pro as a daily loss limit stop. So if the trade goes off sides by a certain amount, it'll just flatten everything out. And that's not a bad idea if your platform crashes or whatever. But if when you're in trades like this, you have to focus on what's happening right now, not where your stop is. Your stop, you should have figured that out before you got into the trade. So the way I look at a trade is very simple. There's three pieces to the equation here. Is there a trade here? Yeah, this is a really good spot to scalp, both long and short. I'd rather play it long because of the potential for a short squeeze. Okay. Can I manage the risk of this idea? Yeah, here I can, and therefore it justifies using more size, like I am. And so that second test, can I manage the risk? And then the third thing I ask myself, all these things are before I take the trade. Is there a trade here? Yes or no? Yeah, you could play short or long here. I'm playing long. Number two, can I manage the risk? Yeah, easy to manage risk because tight range. So I can be aggressive without, it's not likely to move a whole lot. And if it does, that's probably an opportunity to scale it because it's probably just a little 3 or 4 tick rotation, which you can see it does back and forth all the time. In ES, this is specific to ES. So the third item is, where am I wrong? So for this idea, where am I wrong? This is a really good question. And you have to learn how to ask yourself this. If you use a fixed stop, like, well, I use a 4 tick target and a 2 tick stop, I hear that kind of nonsense all the time. And it's exactly that. It's nonsense. Markets don't trade like that. What you need to do is say, okay, is this an opportunity to get long? It's a great opportunity to get long. And we might be doing it again right now. I just bought that at the market because that was a little stops run there. And let's put a target up there in case it sweeps that way. And we'll try to get into this more aggressively if it pushes down into the liquidity, which moved down a little bit, but there's still some right where I am as well. So down into here, notice how I'm using one lots this time so I can play incrementally more aggressive. We're in the bigger scale size today. So I've got one on at 11, but I really would like to have a couple more between here and 10. So let's see if I can get them. Let's see how hard it is to do that. If they're hard to fill, then I'm in the right spot. And we're probably going to go the other way like we're doing right now. So let's protect this. We'll give it a couple of ticks. Hard to protect. I like to protect at least 2 ticks, which it's right on. So I didn't do it yet there. I'd rather just scale that than take a 2 tick profit. Remember, we're trading a big account mentality here. So anyway, where am I wrong on this trade? It's a really good question. Now we can get under it and protect it. So let's do it. We'll lock in 2 ticks here. And again, 50 bucks for 4 ticks. So you don't want to give 50 bucks back, but you don't want to not make 200 if you can. Okay. Now I'm going to protect 3 ticks. Now I'm going to protect 4 ticks. See, as it's going up, I'm protecting more. I'm going to kill that target. So, and we got filled. So that was a nice 62.50, 5 ticks. So I see a question. What do you mean by price is secondary to the price action? Great question. I mean that there's no fixed price I want to buy. I want to buy the action around the quarter numbers here, which right now it's 10 to 12. A minute ago it was 12 and a half to what 10. Now it's 10 to 12 and a half. A minute ago it was 12 and a half to 15. So that's what I mean. There's no fixed level I really like. Now, the next thing down is there's a big high volume node here. So that makes me like this whole area more. Anywhere down here where you see all these orders, because that's kind of the center of this high volume node, right? It's bulges out there on the volume profile. So where is this trade wrong? That's a good quiz question. Put in the chat where you think this idea is just completely wrong and I should completely get out of the way. Where do you think that is based on what I've told you so far? Everybody, just put them in the chat what you think. Put a price in the chat where you think I no longer should play this long. Curious what you guys say. Okay, we have one player, 9.5. So he says, right here, I'm wrong. That's interesting. Right on the liquidity, I'm wrong. That's kind of the place I'm trying to buy. Okay. David says strong Momo below 7. Todd says 56.15. Remember, I'm getting long here, not short. So, yeah, you're short. Okay. Yeah. Okay. If you're short, it's a tight range. So I'd be taking profits at 10 if I was short. I'd be shorting 15 and 12, and I'd be taking profits at 10. Where's this trade long wrong? A couple of you got it right. It would have to aggressively take out the value area, low area here and or the low, because that's really, I remember what I said yesterday, that's really unlikely at the close. This is a closing setup. In the middle of the day, I wouldn't be thinking that way. Why? Because it's the middle of the day. The range isn't well established. Now, if we see a real lot of aggression, as David mentioned, then you don't want to be buying into that aggression. But if they're just pushing down to run stops, which you see routinely, then you're going to get stopped out at the perfect place to get long. And if you're short, you're going to have a perfect opportunity to take profit into that liquidity and those buyers. So that's a good way to think about it in terms of price action. Let's see. 3P is often short. Yeah. The top of the hour, we often get a push down. I'm trying to buy that push down. That's what I'm doing. So let's see what happens. Remember, the internals today are mediocre. It wasn't a big selling day. We might have some people that are net long that need to get flat because the cumulative delta is fairly positive, but that generally it works the other way around at the close. So, people might be trying to short this, pushing it down, and that's setting up a good opportunity to buy it. At least that's the way I'm reading it. Again, you might read it differently. Let's see if I can get a fill right here on my first one, and I did at 1075. So again, I did that because it just was struggling to go down, and it's already a profitable trade. See, I can protect that instantly. That's how a scalper should think. You should think in terms of, remember I said 3 questions before the trade. Is there a setup here? And define it. Yes, it's a long from here and a short from here. Right now it's a short from 15 and a long off of 10. Okay. Can you manage the risk of that? Either way, yes, because the range is tight easily. Where are you wrong? On the 15 trade at the close, you got to be really careful with shorts, and you're wrong anywhere above the VWAP would be dangerous. I wouldn't even, again, I wouldn't be trading long right now, short rather right now. Long is just too good a trade, and short, you're likely to get stepped on if we push up in a short squeeze, which is common at the close. Okay. So that's the 3 questions there. The other 3 questions I ask myself all the time, and this is just my general trade philosophy. Good trades tend to work right away. If you're trying to force a trade to work by scaling it too much, or you're sitting in it for a half an hour, you're probably early, late, or wrong, right? So you're better off just not doing it. So I run a little timer for myself. Most of my good trades work in less than a minute, usually less than 30 seconds. So you think that way. If you're not in the market, you can't lose money. And that's the mentality of a proper futures trader. Not having a position is a position. You take a position when you see your edge. When you're thinking in bets, you can see that it's more likely for you to make money than lose money. That's when you enter the market. But if you're in a trade and it's not working, you're not making money. That's why we're here. And you're trying to make money and it's not working. The idea, remember, we already had to define the idea. What's the idea here? It's long off of 10 to 12 and it's short 15 down, and around 12 is value right now on a high volume node. That's the idea. It's long when that idea is no longer true. I mean, it's wrong when that idea is no longer true. Can you manage risk? Again, it's a perfect day for risk management because we're trading in such a tight range with really clear liquidity just above and just below us. So these little 3 and 4 tick rotations are the setup. And at the close, you much more likely want to be playing on the long side, at least in the current market environment. And again, because short squeezes are very common. Now today we're range bound, so not as common. Today was just a little bit above an inside day. We went up and cleaned up, as Lee pointed out, some of the single print artifacts from a few days ago, and then we came right back into the range. And we left a poor week low, which is a reason to be trading short structurally. But remember, I'm a price action trader, and structure for me is context only. I don't trade off of a contextual trade. I use it to see if my read on the price action is a good bet. Hopefully that makes some sense. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Sachin. Stops through the 10 area, and that's why I'm parked down there. And I just front ran it that last trade at 10 and a quarter, because that's a perfect place to get long. And look, we're all the way back up at surprise, 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 12 and a half, the other quarter number. This happens all day long. And when it's predictable and quiet like this, you can clean up trading it aggressively. You just have to be really patient and let it come to you. Like even 10 and a half here isn't a bad idea. If it gets down really aggressively, then I'll have 5 contracts around 7 and a half. And that's actually a beautiful trade. It's right on the big negative delta, which is where all the buyers showed up earlier today. And it's above the value area low, but that's kind of where I would look at that and say, okay, if I filled all 7 of those, or all 6, excuse me, 1, 2, 3, all 5 of those, if I filled all 5 of those, and then it got significantly below this value area low, and looked like it was really going to take out the low aggressively, I'd probably just hit the flat button and get out of the way. But in most cases, a sharp move down like that, even down into here, you can see it did that earlier, just a little while ago. That's where all the buying was. This is buying here. It traded on the bid. And the liquidity is all parked down there. So that's a good spot. So even if it gets a little lower, here's the value area low right now. So, around there, that's not a bad spot. And then again, there's more liquidity right down here because they know it's really unlikely we're just going to take out the low of the session going into the close on a Tuesday in the summer on a low volume day in a tight range. You see how those pieces fit together? That's how you have to learn to think, particularly at the close. That's why it's so tradable at this time of day, because you have all the pieces to the puzzle. You know what they are already. Okay, yeah, so far well, remember, I look to NQ when we're moving around a lot, David. And if we're not moving around a lot, I go all the way the other way. I look at ES. I say, okay, now we can go in there and trade scale because I get better tick value there. The value per tick is much more. So shorting 56.16 or so till the bottom of the hour. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. That's, shorting the value right now. And there's liquidity up there too. And that area has been sold. But remember, you could get run over up there. You could get run over back to the 15 high or even the value area high, which is all the way up here. So be careful. I would rather be long, particularly if we were on a down day with a negative cumulative delta. Those two aren't true. So, but again, that trade's totally valid. A short around 15 down is working really well if you're in that trade. You could be doing that over and over again, just like I'm looking to trade it the other way. Again, remember, at a good inflection point, long and short are both right. And this is something new traders also. I thought you said it was a long. It is. I thought you said it was a short. It is. I don't get it. Then listen to me. This is a conversation with new people that happens all the time. It's an inflection point. there's no indicator that's going to tell you which way it's going to go. You're just playing the odds. And at the close, the odds are always better on the long side, particularly on a down day, which sounds counterintuitive, but check it out. You'll find out that's a true statement, particularly in a range bound day. Okay. Carefully, I would do that, Sachin, joining 1350. It's the top of the high volume node, which is always tricky. And also, there's a big delta on the other side right there. So, yeah, maybe above there we get a little bit of a puke up. I might join that long, but that's not as good an idea as it is down here in the tens. But that is a legitimate idea. You're reading that correctly. Yes. Okay, so we're past the top of the hour, and not much has happened. So let's see if we can catch a more long down here, and then we'll watch to see if an NQ trade develops. For NQ to get interesting, it's got to get a lot lower or a lot higher. It's below the value area, but or the VWAP, but it's in no man's land in a low volume node. Trading 80 above a high volume node. You could do the same thing I'm doing in EF, but it doesn't pay to try it in NQ because the liquidity kind of protects you in ES. It keeps it from running away from you too far. It will at least pause at big liquidity. So I'll play NQ when there's more potential for movement, and I'll play ES when I can scale better. Like maybe right here to Sachin's question, maybe I'd buy 12 and a half for a push up. Let's see, maybe 12. Let's see if we can get a fill of 12. We'll probe 12. And we filled. Okay, so let's see what it does now. I really want to get long lower, but it looked like there were buyers coming in there. So I went ahead and did the other setup that I do this time of day. It was just a tape scalp. I saw the buyers, and if I can grab a quick $50, why not do that? So even if it just rotates 3 ticks up, I could get 37.50, So let's try for that, for this example. Actually, I just missed that a minute ago. I rotated to 12 and a half. So let's leave that at 1275 for a 3-tick rotation back up there. It's probably going to do more than that if it gets back up there, though. But watch that spot. I would have been 85. So if 85 trade there, I would fill. All right, well, wait a minute. It's just about to come up there. It's going to we could see if I would fill there and move it up higher. I want to do that. So let's push it up here. And if 85 trade there at 75, I would have filled, and it hasn't traded there yet. 10 just traded at 50, and then 2 on the other side at 50. So let's see what happens here. See how I'm watching the auction right now to see how aggressive to get. Now it's pushing down just a little bit. There's some more buyers there. I'm going to try to join them. I was a little too slow doing that. But we pushed down to 11 and a quarter, and there was 300 contracts suddenly on. There was a big chunk of stacking the bid going on there. So they're trying to shake it up here and either push it down to buy it or push it up to take profits. That's what you're seeing. And pushing it up might start a short squeeze also. So now I've got a 2 lot. Again, we're doing this particular setup aggressively. And we'll, trade whatever number of contracts is appropriate. These are minis now, so the leverage is obviously higher than when I was doing what I was doing yesterday in micros. Okay, there's a potential stops run right there. So I grabbed that. I took one more. Let's see if it comes down further. It can't, so I took another one. Now we can put another target or 2 up here. Take a little of it off. You always want to do that if you're scalping with size, because that keeps you in a profitable trade, even if it's not moving that much, by scaling in and out around the core price that you're doing. I'm core long here, and I'm prepared to do it pretty far down, but I also want to take a little profit at each push up, because that way it improves my entry and I'm taking profits along the way. Some of the evaluators will have trouble with this in the PAs. They'll call it dollar cost averaging, which it isn't, but what I'm doing is just trading what I said, scalping around a core price. But they're starting to learn that you can do that. As long as you don't do it too much, they'll leave you alone. In the evals, they don't care at all. In the PAs, they kind of watch for people, swarming in with lots of contracts. That's another technique I use, swarming, and that they don't like because they can't copy it. So that's what they're really watching for. Let's see if we can get one more off here on the push up. I have 4. I've got one order at 75, one at 12. So I'm trying to get 2 and 3 ticks from here on 2 of my 4. And again, I really will get more aggressive lower down. See how the liquidity moved down a little bit though? Just a little bit. There's still some up above here where there was, but the bulk of it shifted down. Here we go. Now here's a rotation up. See how it keeps doing that? It rotates back and forth. So now we've got a really profitable 2 lot that we can protect. Let's kill that target and let's put protection on. We'll put our condom on here. And so now I've got a stop at 75 and a stop at 50. It's trading quarter now 50. So that's 4 ticks. I'll scoot the stack up as we go up if I can. And these are volume stops too. That V20, see that on the stop? It says stop 1 V20. That's a volume stop. That means it won't, if it just touches that price, it won't execute. It'll wait till 20 contracts trade there. So that keeps it a little more in the trade on a move like this. Okay, now we're in really good shape. I've got a protectable long off of 1050 with a 2 lot. So it's 225, 250 bucks. And all we did was go back to the quarter number. We literally just rotated the range. That's what I mean by the 2 and 3 and 4 tick rotations. So this was a perfect example of it today. And there you go. So we just took profits and now we'll wait for the trade to reset again. Wash, rinse, repeat, just like it says on the shampoo bottle. Questions about that setup? We'll see that one over and over again on quiet days. So almost any quiet day we're trading, you will see me do that. And it's the way that big traders make money. They make the bulk of their money scalping for 3, 4 ticks at a time with a lot of size. But they do it when it's like this. And that's why those 3, 4 tick rotations happen. And you just have to watch for them and get on the other side of them. Let it do a 3 or 4 tick or 2 tick rotation to you and fill you. Don't chase those. When they stops run down, people freak out and say, oh my God, there's running the stops, get out of the way. And I'm like, no, let's buy it. Because as soon as they run the stops, all those people get stopped out. And then those are buy orders to stop out. So it's going to go back in the range, particularly on a range day that's this tight. I'm going to like be a broken record and just go around and around and just keep repeating that. So that's why I'd rather play long than short. It's just that the energy on the close to the upside is stronger, except in a down market, which this isn't. Obviously, we're at all-time highs. So the technique, I adjust to the conditions. That's why the first thing I do is I look at context every time. So if you have questions, put them in the chat. We will get to them. I'll clear my throat. I may go get another cup of coffee. I'm still trying to wake up here. So far, you guys have seen really good examples of a couple of the setups. Yesterday, we saw a couple of them. Today, we saw the one I couldn't do yesterday because the range was too big. And so far, we've seen real life examples of 3 of the 4 things I do regularly. Remember, the last one is scalping the tape. And that's not a tight range. That's different. And today I'm not doing that because we have the opportunity to scalp the tight range. But when we have a big range, then I look for the other version of that, which is trading the tape, looking for, and I showed you this yesterday. Remember when I drew on my dome over here? Where's my drawing tool? Come on, zoom. There it is. So remember, I did this yesterday. I drew like on the traded volume, I said that's the bottom of the range and that's the top of the range and that's the bottom of the range. That's what I mean. When the market has a really big range, I'll do that in NQ going into the close. But on a tight range day today, and again, we're only doing 42 points ish. Over here, 42 points right there. So it's a tight range day. So, you're much better off scalping ES around the quarter numbers and the rotations, which is what we just did. So that's an important distinction. It's condition dependent, and that should make sense. Do you have a similar dome and heat map template for Sierra chart? I don't. There are some Sierra chart templates that do a heat map like that of the liquidity. Tachino Trader, I think, has one. And, the people that do templates professionally and they're not expensive, you can find them. There's a lot of chatter about it in our pit under the templates. And there's a couple people right now duplicating some of this. And at some point, they might be willing to share it. Usually people do. but I don't know of one that's as far along as all this. I know of one that's very similar without the heat map, but it does show how the liquidity changes back and forth across prices. And again, thing about Sierra Chart, it's a huge learning curve, and it can do pretty much anything you want it to do, just if you're willing to put in the work. And again, people have done that. I just don't find it as useful for this style of trading, but you certainly can do that, and the stuff is out there. So that guy, let's see, Ziggy on the bid. That's another one that has templates like that. Ticino Trader does. And again, there's conversations about this in the pit. You can post in there and see where people are, maybe ask if anybody's got anything they might be willing to share as a starting point. And I would do that in templates. So you go to TRG templates and you post a question, like Doc Sierra chart book. You could post it there. You could post it as a whole new subject. You could also reach out to JVC. He does some custom Sierra chart coding for people. And I know he knows more about that than I do, as well as a couple of other people. That's why posting in the pit's the best thing to do to get good resources and starting points for that. With Sierra, you always have to customize some of your stuff anyway. And so the best you can hope for is a good starting point. You're welcome. I did share my Sierra chart yesterday, which has at least this stuff. If I get rid of my jigsaw, you can see what Sierra chart on this screen. It's that stuff. And then on my other screens are some Sierra chart footprints and TPOs. I used to trade off the domes in Sierra chart. I've tried it. I just don't like the way, my number one complaint with it is I can't move orders as quickly as you just saw me doing, or you saw me doing yesterday. I can move orders really fast in Jigsaw just by clicking on the price. And when I'm scalping, that's really important. It's the difference sometimes between making $500 and losing $500, how fast I can move a target or, a take profit stop. So I also have hotkeys on my mouse. I forgot to mention that earlier. I have hotkeys on my mouse that will center all of my domes. And so like I can press this button and do that, or I can press a button on my mouse and it will do the same thing. See, I'm doing it right now. I also can reset the traded volume for all of them from here. And I also have a button on my mouse to do that. So I can start with fresh volume and recenter it without having to click on the screen. And then I have a button that will get me flat without having to go to each dome. It just flattens all my platforms and stuff like that. So some of the guys, JVC trades with a gamepad. A lot of people do that, or they use those little mini keyboards with preset hotkeys like gamers use. I've done that before too. When I'm trading lots of instruments, I'll do that because it's easier than moving the mouse around all day. You just, buy in this market, buy in that market, that kind of thing. You can get like little pads of 20 customizable keys, that kind of thing. Okay, I see a question. Why do your Sierra chart books never put all the colors on some of the charts? You have to add them manually on the tick charts. You mean the color of this up here, the plotting color? That's a indicator that's running, that's doing that. It's coloring the bars. That's an indicator called Supertrend that's doing that. JVC put those together for me, so you could throw a few bucks at JVC and it'll help you config it. I paid him to do these for me, the ones that are currently on 5 minutes, and they go 1 to 5 minutes typically. And they have all the levels on them that I watch, the opening minute and 15 minute. And if there's gaps or not, that's this. I had him do that for me. and I shared it with the coaching group also. And I've shared it in the pit, but he put all that together. And you got to be careful of if you're adding or stuff to it, you got to configure it again with Sierra. You always have to do this. You got to configure it to your computer and make sure that it's not conflicting with other settings and studies. Meanwhile, we're back down here right at this interesting 11 to 10 level, and see how the liquidity kind of made a hump as it went back up. So it's respecting the range really tight today. Let's see if we can get long down here again on this little stops run. So I got one at 10 1/4, trying to get one at 10. I didn't get filled there or at 9.5, but that worked instantly. So maybe a run back up to this end of the range here. Let's see if we can get another one at the same price. So now I've got two at 10 1/4. I'm going to get another one at 10, hopefully. Perfect. Okay, now we'll throw a couple of targets up again. We've got a 4 lot. We'll get some more orders under here. Perfect. Let's get one of these off as it's rotating. Remember, see, I was just talking about rotations. It's doing that right now. It just rotated 3 ticks. And see, so now I've got a profitable 2 lot that I can protect if I want to. But rather than protecting it, I'm going to use a target, which is the other way to do it, because there's a good spot to have as a target. And I'm going to try to scale into this a little more if it rotates back down. So you can see where I'm doing that. And I'm willing to play all the way down to here. That's the bottom of value. And I like it in here too. So that's, again, remember, we're trading aggressively with some size today. So you're going to see me doing that. I'm also watching the tick of the S&P 500. That's this number right here. And as long as that doesn't go really negative, I'm in good shape. I'm going to take a little bit more off because I just put a little bit more on down there. Okay, so now I have 2 left. Let's scoot that up. I'm going to protect one of those 2 now because I've got over a point in it. Now I've got a 1.5 in it. Don't want to give that back on both of them, but I'll protect just one of them. See how I'm doing risk management and profit taking at the same time? This is an important tactic. We talked yesterday about tactics. Okay, that one's off, so I have a 1 lot left. I'm going to keep that 1 lot, and I'll just protect a tick of it. Now let's protect 2 ticks of it, and we'll try to reassert the trade. If it rotates down, it's a perfect spot to do that. Okay, so it took me out of that one, and if it just rotates back where I got long before, then I'm going to get long again, right here around 10. So, but it might end up shooting up. Now I don't want these 2 sell orders there. So this really adds up quickly. Yeah, that's the Sierra chart, super trend, and then the settings for it that I've got right now. I don't know if I can just share a default for it. I can, but I don't want to take the time now. But anyway, this is in the one I shared. It's right there. You can see what the settings are that I used in the chart book that I shared yesterday. Okay, we're rotating down. Maybe we popped up there pretty nicely, so that was a really good spot to get aggressive. Remember, I'm trying to be aggressive as the conditions warrant. Could I go a little bigger here? Yeah, I probably could. Let's try to get a couple here. Okay, we're long 1 now, 1075. We'll try to add down to 10 aggressively and even below that because it's a good trade all the way into this liquidity at 8. And again, I'll throw a target up for now just to mark kind of where the liquidity was when I entered the trade. I do that a lot too. Now it's pushing up. I'm going to try to get another one there. It's not rotating as far down as it did last time. The buyers see that we made a higher low, so that's why I'm trying to rebuy at the level I just bought as well as below it. So keep an eye on the traded volume here and see how aggressively it goes back and forth. That's the key to this. And hopefully you get on the right side of the trade where the aggression's on the side you're on, and that's what's happening. It's aggressively up, and that's the side I'm on, and I'm trying to get more aggressive there as it's any sort of pullback. Where's the recent low? Where's, it's making higher lows. So it makes total sense to try to scale this any way I can. And then we get a short squeeze, I'll be really golden. I'm going to cancel that target. Now I've got a nice potential for a runner. See what I mean? So now we'll protect this. Again, when you get this is what I mean. Always, I started to tell you my 3 things. So good trades tend to work right away. If you're sitting in a trade, you're wrong. Um, Always take profits, even if it's just little bits like this, like I'm doing. You don't go broke taking profits, and they add up. Even $100, $200 a trade, do this 10 times, that's $1,000. Do it with a little more size, and it's $10,000. Again, if you have the skills to trade, scale is just a matter of respecting the risk for your account size. That's all it is. And and again, I'm not considering things like trailing drawdowns or any of that kind of nonsense. I'm treating risk management as if it was cash. But if you have a trailing drawdown to deal with, then you've got to consider that as well if you're in one of the evaluators. So we just took profits up there. That was a really sweet trade. It may go farther. We are seeing a bit of a short squeeze here. Watch the bid. See, it's relentlessly resetting. That's what a short squeeze looks like. Boom, there's another one. So I could have stayed in that, but never say that shoulda, coulda, woulda. So good trades work right away. Always take profits and don't lose money. If you're in a trade that's not working, just get flat. Don't let it go way against you. Get used to being wrong quickly. There's an art to that. Having a stubborn mind will not make you a good trader. Thinking in bets and just executing against your process for your edge will make you a good trader, and you'll make lots of money. It's a learnable, repeatable skill if you understand the skill you're learning, which is an edge of statistics. When it does this, I'm more likely to be able to make money with this than that. That's what we're doing. It has nothing to do with, well, this price level is important because Joe Blow says it is, or my indicator says it is. No, you see an inflection point, it starts trading. There's always an opportunity both ways. Usually one way is better than the other. Sometimes you have a preference like me. I'd rather trade short than long, but at the close, longs work better. So I trade the close long more often. It's literally that simple. Everything else is just practice, like any skill. It's a really good movie on Netflix, I think, or on one, maybe it's on Prime Video, that Will Smith plays the father of Serena and Venus Williams. And it shows kind of like what their life was like growing up and how hard he pushed them, and the lessons he taught them and all that. It's a really good film. I forget the name of it, but you can Google it. Um, but it just without, while still developing them as people, he really had a mindset of, it's about the skill. And in that world at that time, particularly, black women in tennis, that was unheard of. So, they had to be better, not as good as everyone else, better than everyone else. So it's a very, very interesting movie, and it applies to trading too. Good traders build themselves. Good traders are made. There's no such thing as you're born a good trader, and there's no magic indicators. You make money by practicing things that work and getting better at the things that work than everybody else is. That's an edge. That's your mission. That's why you're here, is to do exactly that. King Richard, that's it. What a great story that was. All right, I'm going to go get some more Wawa. I'm going to leave those orders up because I hope they fill. Be right back. I'm just kind of walking across the room here. I'm also going to fire up my coffee maker again. Some days there just isn't enough coffee. Am I right? Okay. As you get older, you will learn that it gets worse. I promise you. There will be fewer and fewer amounts of coffee. You'll need more and more coffee and fewer days that will work the way it used to. God, I remember when I was in my 20s, I wasn't a coffee drinker. And I did in college, but I quit after college. And I remember, God, at IBM where I first worked when I first started working, and then in my first couple of startups, I would drink a coffee in the morning and I would get a big burst of energy and I'd get on the phone and I'd start getting stuff done. And now it's like, I need a cup of coffee to get out of bed. So I have a conveniently placed coffee maker. Absolutely. That's so right, Todd. I completely agree. And that's why you just have to, when the trade's set up, you just have to take them. You can't have a conversation with yourself about whether you should take it or not, David, and some of the others of you. Yeah, there's the reflux problem. There's ways around that, but coffee is very acidic, particularly the institutionally produced coffee. You can get organic coffees that are less acidic, but yeah. All right, so we're at the 15 quarter number and we're right on the VWAP and we're right about to go into the bottom of the hour. So I'm canceling orders. I do that periodically as a housekeeping and reset my brain and continue to think in bets. Just because I thought that was a good idea before doesn't mean it's a good idea if we go down there now. It probably is, but you need to reset your brain sometimes. Other times I'll leave orders like that because I really want them to be in line at a good spot. Today's not a day like that. I'm not having trouble getting filled where I want to. And, maybe I got to give up a tick or two to get filled. But the areas I want to trade are available and getting a better spot in line on the exits helping a little bit, but not on the entry by much. So that's fine. Hang on one second. I got to make sure I remember to put the coffee cup in the coffee machine. That was a mistake I made this morning. Not a good mistake to make when you start the coffee machine and you forget to put the coffee cup under the coffee machine and the coffee makes itself all over the counter. Okay. I will be right back. We're going into the bottom of the hour rotation. I'm watching that on my 30-minute footprint over here, which I'll kind of put on the edge so you can see it. It's ES, but I'll put it over here on the right by the YM so we can still watch the ES dome. It's from my right-hand monitor. You can see there's a price rejector 2 periods ago that's pretty well defined. That's the top of the day. That's the spot. Excuse me, that's the top of the overnight, not the regular session. The regular session, obviously, we went higher up. You can see this is the top of the regular session up there where we did go indeed and clean up those one of those single prints as I mentioned earlier. So I'll be right back. I'm gonna just go get my coffee and run upstairs for some milk. Yeah, you do. I totally agree, Chris. That's exactly right. Okay, I have returned and energy juice in hands. I'm ready to go. So, as you can see, we have a price rejector on the pullback as well here on the 30 minute. I'm just looking at that now. Remember, every time you leave your computer, relook at the context. We push down, we have a price rejector up here on the last period. So maybe be patient and look for another long if it can go a little lower or at least toward where it was before, around here. But I wouldn't play right here because we rejected that area and we're trading back at the 12 and a half quarter number. So the short off 15 continues to be a good idea as well. Again, that's totally legitimate. And it has been, the short up there or the long at the other end that I've been playing, those are both completely the same idea. The other side of the trade. Remember, to make money, you have to be right and somebody has to be wrong. This is a zero sum game in futures. When you buy, somebody's selling to you. When you sell, somebody's buying from you. You're a market maker, even at one contract. So you have to think that way. And you have to think about where you can be opportunistic with that and where you can't. And it's literally that simple. And the price action will tell you everything you need to know. That's why indicators are nonsense. They look backwards and they are some sort of model of what's happening. But you can't argue with the traded volume. The traded volume is the market, literally. So the traded volume interacting with the liquidity shows how people are perceiving the market and therefore improves your edge. So it's really important. Hang on one second. I forgot something upstairs. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. I am back. So I see my orders didn't fill. I left them there thinking we might be right at the edge of the range again. Might be a good bet, and it still is. You can see, again, the LRC gives you a sense of the range. It's not an absolute, it's a statistical interpretation of the range. And that's one of the things I go off of. And again, where's the liquidity? Where's the previous traded volume? Okay, now we're trying to push down. Let's nibble right here and see if we can get a fill. See how hard it is to fill at 11. I've got an order by 11 and it's trading 11. I filled. Okay, so now let's see what happens. Immediately profitable. Okay, so that was a good spot. So again, we'll put a first kind of target up there at 3 points up at 14 and see if we can scale into this a little bit. This is what I call the video game guy approach after one of my old students, video game guy, which is he puts a trade on and then decides to scale it or not. And this one is worth scaling. So I just made it a 3 lot instead of a 1 lot. And I'm going to try to make it bigger further down. Meanwhile, I can trade again around the core idea with a couple of those first few contracts like that. So we'll put some targets up. I've got a 3 lot. There's 3 targets. As I accumulate contracts, I'll put up more targets. We'll see if we can get another one down here. So far, no fills. If it sweeps down, I'll get really nicely filled. I'll have a big position, which is perfect, right on the liquidity. Meanwhile, I've got a 3 lot just above liquidity with a nice spot to scalp around a core idea. Let's take the first one off right there for 3 ticks. 3 ticks is always a good spot to take your first profit. Okay, there's 4 ticks right there. Let's take 4 ticks on the second one. And cool. All right. So now I still have a really good 1 lot. I took some profit though. So now I can scale back into it when it rotates down again. You see how that works? This is how you do this. Coaching students, this is a really good example. We haven't had a chance to see one of these yet. So for you guys, we've talked about this a lot, but today you're going to see it. And we're at a 3 lot so far. Profitable right here because I've already taken some profits. Again, I'll put another target up. I've got a 4 lot at 11 now. So 11.75, maybe we'll take one off. Maybe at 11.5, we'll take one off. We'll see how it trades when it gets up there on the next rotation. It held right here. See, good buying at 10.75. Now they're pushing down. So let's see if we can get another one filled at 10.5. We did, which gives us a spot to park some more sell orders just above the trade. Now I've got, see, it filled a chunk of those. So now I'm in a really good spot to take half off just above the trade. So this is perfect. Let's kill that. So even if I take them off right here, 1 tick above where I entered, I start taking profits, and I'm only 4 ticks off of that. And I still want to scale this. Watch the tick though. If that gets too aggressively down, that means the equities are selling off. It's minus 500 over here. That's pretty aggressive, but I still like this spot. It's still on this high volume node. I'm going to take one more the market down there just to improve my position a little bit and scale out a little faster. So now I have a 9 lot. In fact, I'm going to take a 10 lot, nice round number. And then we'll put another target up there so we can manage it. Okay. You know what? Let's put that one up at break even. Okay, because it's profitable between those two. You can see it starts getting profitable at 10.25. So I'm going to start taking profits at 10.5 on the first 2 contracts. Okay, good absorption here. The flip chart's flipping over, which means they're stacking on the bid side. That's good. And the ask's getting pulled. Watch that right here and here. And it's a little bit of a battle, but we want to see this number go up and this number going down. It's not doing that right now. So I'm going to grab another one right there if I can. Perfect. Okay, now we can put our first 3 off right there. Again, see how what I'm doing that as I scale in, I put another target to start scaling out. That way I can improve my position on this high volume node. And unless the bottom falls out, I'll have a really good trade. The flip chart's flipping blue. In other words, they're stacking on the buy side. Let's see if that continues and they can start another little short squeeze because it'll take me out of a bunch of this profitably, and then we'll see what to do with the rest of it. Good spot. I'm going to reset the volume so I get fresh volume here. Little attempt at a squeeze there, a little 4 tick, it pushed down. Still finding buyers, but the liquidity just moved down. Okay, there's a little stops run, so that's ideal. And so is the bottom of value here. Remember, we're going to play this really aggressively. That's what we're doing. So let's do right here. Okay, and now again, I'm going to take some off quickly. The idea is to scale in and out around those big moves, and that's what I'm trying to do. So now we should rotate back up toward 10, and that will be a good spot to start taking some of this off. I've got 19 now, and remember, these are minis. This is a decent sized position. If you have questions, put them in the chat. I'm staying very focused on my trade. I'm going to kill these orders just so I can see the liquidity clearly and pay attention to what's happening. So I want to see them come in on the bid side here at some point, no lower than the value area low here. And I might scale this a little bit more. And then if the low goes, I might get really run over. You'll see that. I'm in an Apex account here, as I said I was going to do, and it's a 300,000. I don't know what the 300,000 trailing drawdown is. It's like $5 grand or $7 grand or something. So If this low went, I'd come pretty close to it, put it that way. But it's highly unlikely to go that far down unless something changes. The tick's still negative, but we should see a rotation up here pretty soon. Again, value's above us, but it's not way above us. We're still in the value area. We're still in it. We came right down to SD1, and that's as far as we got. And we're holding at SD1. So again, this isn't an extreme. It's not a great spot. I'm a little bit too aggressive here. And again, I told you guys, I'll show you, good examples and bad examples. This one I'm a little off sides, but this is the bottom of value. So it needs to hold right here. And again, we might see this this account blow up. I wanted to show you what really aggressive style looks like here. This is it. So we'll see what happens. I don't know where my trailing drawdown is. Let me look. Let's see. Oh, it's quite a ways down. It's about 3,000 down from here. So the low would have to go pretty hard like that. Let's see if it gets hit. Oh, this will be fun if I get hit. Yeah, I think it is going to get hit. Right there. We're right there. Okay. Perfect. Okay. This is such a good example. It did get hit. That's great. This was an Apex account. So real quickly, these are great conditions for cash. I'm going to reset this stuff real quick and go into a cash account. I've got to just log out of this Apex to do that. And then we'll play there. And again, you can do that when you're playing in evals. That's the whole point of them. But the trailing drawdown got me. I still love that idea, but that's going to happen in those. And hang on, I need to pause this for a second. But I bet this idea is still valid. I'm watching the trade now. It came down. That was a major stops run, and it got all the way down to 5,600. So let's see if we can get logged back in fast enough in the cash account to play this, because it's a really good setup. It made an extreme. And again, the mistake I made there was just I was aggressive a little too early. So hopefully this will load fast enough. Hang on, I'm reloading it right now. I'm going to stop my share. It'll load faster. Oh, shoot. I logged back in the wrong Apex account. I mean, the wrong RTrader account. I need my cash account. Let me do that real fast. I had them both open earlier, and I forgot to do that because I wanted to show you guys what it would look like if you're aggressive. And that was a little too aggressive, and I was a little too early, but that's fine. I want to show you both good and bad examples, and that's not necessarily a bad one. Again, this is still a great spot. If I can get logged back in fast enough to trade it with cash, I will. It's already bounced off of the low by 3 points, so it's still right at the spot I want to play. We just tested that spot. It was a beautiful test of it. I'll show you in just a second. Just took out the initial balance there, the low. So we ended up with a double break. And now we're right on the initial balance low, going into the close, going into the 10-minute wiggle. And don't forget, we've got earnings after the close, as we do every day. So this is going to be really interesting, as we do every day this week and next week, I meant to say. Okay, I think let's see. Yes, okay, we're back up. Let me bring Jigsaw back up real quick, and then I will restart the share. Hopefully it doesn't trade too much higher. It's at 04 right now. Let's get Jigsaw running here. Come on, baby. Sorry, I meant to have these both running. I had it earlier, and our cable went down, so I had to reboot to get a new IP address, and I forgot to restart the other one because I did say I wanted to show you guys some scale, which I will continue showing you more examples of that throughout the class. But right now I'm going to go into one of my cash accounts and let's trade this a little less aggressively, but it's still a great spot. It just made it to SD2, so it just made an extreme. Couldn't ask for a better setup on a tight range day. So again, I just slightly overtraded that spot. And if it wasn't for the trailing drawdown, I'd still be in that trade. Again, that's the problem with these evaluators. In real money, I would still be in that trade. So let's get that idea going here as quickly as we can. Okay, we are connected. I just need to switch the feeds. Okay, that's that one. That's that one. And that one. Okay, now let's revisit this idea. Oh, NQ is even at a better spot. Look at that. Wow. Okay. I like this idea in NQ. It's at the bottom of value and we can play much lighter over there. So let's get one on there, right on the value area low. And I think I might do the same thing in ES, but the NQ trade's already working. See what I mean? That's why I love NQ and try to get underneath that. There it goes. There's a quick rip. So this is a quick couple $100 here in NQ. Boom. How's that? So the idea, and you can see over here, now we're back up here at 5. So that trailing drawdown took me out. And this is right, the bottom of value is where my break even was. So you see what
Your
I mean?
screen's off, Jeff.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. Thank you, thank you, thank you for saying that. Yes. I don't look over here fast enough. Yes, yes, yes. Appreciate it. That's why I made you co-host. And I'm going to make Cal a co-host who just said that to me. Okay. Now, can you see my screen? Hello? Yes. Okay. So I just did that trade in NQ. I just got long right here in NQ at the bottom of value. So right there, I just did that trade. Sorry, I thought I was sharing when I did it. My entry was at 43, so I was just below value right here, and then I took profits on the pop up to 50, which was basically the same trade I was doing over here. But this is what I mean. See, now we're at the bottom of value there, and so that trade would have worked except for the trailing drawdown, and that's the problem with these evaluator PA, cash accounts, whatnots. There's no trailing drawdown in real life. There's just good risk management. And that was a really good spot. But I was too aggressive for Apex, not for cash. I made a nice, quick, profitable cash trade. So that's the reason I don't trade with Apex anymore. But if you're new, where else can you take that kind of risk? So you just have to be mindful that you're not playing in the market's rules. You're playing in the Apex Casinos rules. And so often that will happen, where you'll get stopped out of what is a really good idea. See, here's some trades from today and some of the accounts. There's the one we just got stopped out of that blew up the account. And then there's a cash trade right after it with real money at the same spot. And so again, it just, you got to really decide if you want to do that. You got to understand that you're getting taught. It's not that it's bad risk management what they force you to do. It's just that the biggest opportunities in futures are at the extremes like that. See, look what it did down there. Look at the wick at that low here on this 5-minute. A wick happens when the market trades to a point really aggressively and then rejects that price, and the volume is in the wick of is in the body of the candle, not the wick. The wick is the extreme. So this was whoa, and there's a short squeeze that happened as I'm explaining this. So again, this is why I would much rather be long, because now you had a squirt to 10. But anyway, that's my point. You see that it pushed through the initial balance. It found an extreme right at SD2. And look at how the book flipped over there. That was a massive flip over. That's why you want to watch the bar by bar delta. And it also was a high volume node. Again, massive high volume node. Remember I mentioned that yesterday. The market often reverses on those. So basically the way that the evaluators are set up is to take you out of your best trades at the best spots. That's how they, keep you from withdrawing money. So just be aware of that. You don't want to go and lose lots of money in the futures market learning how to trade. But once you know how to trade, do it in a cash account with a small amount of micros, which is what this class is about. And that's exactly the point I was hoping to make today. And I just made it. I blew up Apex and I made real money in cash accounts trading much smaller size. And there's a really important lesson there. Okay. questions about that or anything else so far today, please put them in the chat. You're welcome to unmute yourself too and ask a question. Just tell me before you do it. We're back down at the bottom of value here. So let's switch back to micro mode. So I always watch the volume in the mini, but if we're going to trade a little more conservatively, let's watch the volume in the mini, but let's execute in the micros. So that's what I'm going to do now. And I can switch that just by checking this box in Jigsaw. So again, it's all about risk management. Notice how that keeps coming up? Okay, now we're down at this spot again. Let's grab a micro down there. This time in ES. There we go. I'm long 4. It's instantly profitable. Good trades work right away. Can we get one off at 5 and then ride the other one? I've got a 2 lot. Let's see if that works. We'll try to get a little longer down here. It's right on the edge of value. It's right back. It's not an extreme anymore though, because the value has kind of gone a little lower. So it's the edge of the value area, but it's not an extreme of the VWAP as much as it was a few minutes ago, a little lower down. So that's my point. There we go. We got filled on that one. So let's see if we can protect the other one. I'm going to try to do that. So I took one off profitably, as you can see. And there we go. Now we can protect this one. And maybe we'll get a runner all the way to the middle of the range. No, we won't, but we took some profits again. So this is the kind of more conservative, do it with 10 micros, not 20 minis approach. You won't blow accounts up. You could do it with a $500 account and you can make 50, 100, 150 bucks a day and just gradually build it up. So let's try and catch another long down here. Notice how I'm playing ES now and not NQ because NQ isn't close enough to the extreme. ES is right on it. So the value area low, it's a better trade right now in ES. I can go in and grab, 4 ticks real fast, 5 ticks, there we go. That's every trade is a $5 bill, put on 2, it's a $10 bill. Take off the commissions, which are $1 a piece. There you go. Remember, things are about to get really volatile because we have big earnings today. Ooh, we're pushing down a little bit. I got filled on that one. I went to take a sip of coffee here, so let's grab another one down here. We might actually push the low right now. We're getting close enough to it. We're going into the 10-minute wiggle. So I'm going to play down here with a couple of micros. And I'll play pretty aggressively. But this low could go. Remember, we have big earnings after the close. We're right at the extreme right here. That's a good spot to get one more into the game and try to get them off on the trade back into value. So there's just taking profits quickly. And we might get a runner on the last one. We can maybe push it up. But we'll decide that when we get there. And I'm prepared to just hit the flat button if the bottom falls out of this. Remember, track the earnings that are coming up. We have some big earnings coming up right after the close. So you can see maybe somebody teased Tesla. That could move us a lot. So, or people are just getting flat ahead of that. We're back at 0 here. Ooh, big push down. Get out of the way when that happens. That was not a stops run. That was a change in behavior. So see how I got flat. Now I don't want to take the risk, and it only cost me 50 bucks to do that. So let's see what's happening here. I think we're going to get another extreme. Let's see if we get another high volume reversal wick that we can play along here. I'm looking for it right now. This is our 10-minute wiggle, really aggressive. I don't see a wick yet. Let's go to 1 minute on these. Okay, there's some buying right there. I'm going to go ahead and nibble right there. I just took a long at 96. It worked. 95 rather. I'm sorry. Protecting it at 96. So, okay, that was nice. Quick 4 ticks. Do that again here. See, we made the extreme and then we're forming another wick, but we're still down there. So we've got a lot of volume, but we haven't really reversed. So the setup is still in play. But I don't want to get too aggressive here. Okay, I'm going to buy a couple more right on that same spot right here. A little bit higher up than I bought before. I had 95 and 94 before. Let's see if it pushes through the low into the liquidity again. Otherwise, it might squeeze it. Let's see. Somebody might have somebody might have pre-released some numbers, which could cause that. And if you look at the TPO, Todd's saying there's a good short target below us. Yes, there is. There's an old low that held. From a structural point of view, you're absolutely correct. That doesn't mean I won't scalp down here myself, which I'm doing. But again, I'm going to play it pretty tight with just a few micros at a time now. See how the conditions changed? You've really got to be mindful of that when you do this. This is totally different. Remember, I was trading the setup that was a tight range. We left that range as soon as we left this value area lows area. It totally blew through it. And that sometimes happens. Otherwise, and particularly when structurally it's set up the way it is, although we have structural artifacts in both directions. Okay, here we go. Now we're coming back up. So I am now long 96. We're trading 96. I'm going to take a little bit off around 97 and maybe we'll get a runner a little higher up. I'm watching what it's doing here though, and it's not getting bought aggressively. See, we're not putting in a wick reversal like we did here. We're not doing that at this low. So I'm going to be a little more conservative, take profits a little faster here. But I can protect this nicely. So now I've got a one lot that's really well protected. So let's see if it gets maybe back to value. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. You play the odds. There we go. So it's trading 98. I'm long 96. Excuse me, 95. I'm old. I can't see that from far away. All right. I think that's the last one I'm going to do now because we're 2 minutes out and there's some really big earnings coming, as I said a minute ago. So that's nice. We've got some nice profits in the bank. We'll leave them there, not give them back. And let's just go have another look more closely at the earnings and when they're coming out. Oh, go away. I don't want this. Okay. So Tesla's coming out 10 minutes after the close. Apple or Google's right at the close, Alphabet. And the two different classes are back to back. There's a bunch of them right at 4 o'clock. So we should see the reaction to that. So let's sit tight and watch it today. And I won't necessarily trade it, but you'll just get to see how crazy it could get. Yes, they are, Chris. See how they all broke down together. So did YM. And that's typical when there's a change in conditions. That's one way you can tell that it's a change in conditions and not location is that the markets all aggressively do something that isn't unique to one market. And so that's correct. All right, we have good absorption here at the low, but again, I already played that long. I'm not in a hurry to keep doing that with all those giant earnings coming out in a minute. You know, that could really shake this up. So let's just take a step back and watch. Boom, there's a nice little short squeeze. Look at that. All the way back to 5,600. Big fat hole number where the liquidity was getting absorbed there. Now it's pushing down again. This is pretty crazy action. I think we're going to see some wild movement once we close, go into settlement, and the earnings reports start coming out. Particularly Google's right ready to go, and Tesla. Those are both big components. Okay, there's the bell. So the equity's just closed. This is going to be a really volatile settlement with all those earnings coming. So let's sit tight and watch this for a bit. Yeah, I bet they do. Jeffrey, I agree with you. Musk keeps putting his foot in his mouth, and he should just be quiet and run his businesses. He'd be much better off. He wants to be an oligarch, and that's costing him money in Tesla. And it will cost him a lot more, I think, going forward. So we'll go 5 or 10 minutes. Let's see how much, as the earnings come out, how much activity we can watch. I'm not necessarily going to trade. In fact, I'm likely not to trade it, but we'll have fun just watching. It's usually a pretty good show. And it's better that I'm on my cash feed now because this is a good feed. Whoa, there we go. There's a big move. Hello. Somebody reported. Wow, big move down in the NQ and then a snapback right back to where we were. Wow. That went all the way down to the lows and back. You don't want to trade the futures against earnings the way I do against economic releases. It's too thin this time of day because most of the major volume is done for the day. And so if you trade this time of day, it's got to be really small scalps in really well-defined places and not based on anything happening in the equities. I love to do it NQ for those snapbacks on economic releases, but not on earnings releases. Okay, here we go. Looks like we're getting some more. It's getting a little volatile. I'll keep this page up on my other screen so I can see what's come out and what hasn't. So far, I don't see anything. Let's see. Let me scroll down a bit. Don't see any biggies, but I don't pay for the earnings service, so they probably already. They're going to be a little bit of a delay on earnings whispers, which is what I'm watching on my other screen. So nice volatility though. Look at this. We're all the way back at 6. Now we're back at 10. Hello. Now we're at 12. This is now we sweep all the way back down. Look at that sweep all the way back to 4. That was an 8-point sweep. Now a 10-point sweep. And yes, somebody big reported clearly. Texas Instruments, is that who it was? Yeah. Yes, it was. And they beat by a little bit. I see that. Wow, look at ES now at the bottom of the range. Whoa, look at that. Crazy action. It's fun to watch. All right. Well, anyway, I think you guys get the idea at this point. Um, we'll probably see a lot more reactions. You can watch it on your own computers, but this isn't a good time to trade. It sometimes is a good time to exit a good trade when like the market's very far off sides on a big down day. For example, playing a long on a big down day into the settlement. I will do that often, but with all these earnings coming, it's going to get crazy and continue to get crazy. So I think I'm just going to wrap up here. We're coming up on 2 hours. If we go to 115 and that or to 130, that gets a little long for me. So Tesla's out. Okay, so that's latest reaction. And let's see, I'm refreshing the page. Let me see what Tesla's looks like. Back to zero again. Alphabet came up short. Okay, I see you guys calling them as you see them. That's cool. Appreciate that. Boy, the earnings whispers page is getting bombarded. Their servers scrambling to keep up. It's taking a long time to refresh. Oh, they show a lot of ads on it. They make some money doing that, particularly with the non-paid service. All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up here. My page isn't loading very fast, and there's no sense just hang out and watch it. We can all watch that ourselves. So I hope this was useful for you. Um, got to see a good example of a few different things I wanted to show you. So scale, the dangers of scale, the dangers of trading with evaluators and their silly trailing drawdowns. Um, We got to see a couple of the setups today, so that was good. I think all in all, it was a productive session. So, any questions or comments before we wrap up? Thank you. I appreciate the feedback, guys. I really do. Cool. All right. No questions. We'll wrap up. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good evening.